Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your Monday Night Live. I'm here with the incomparable Paul, and we are going to answer any questions you guys may have about life, the universe, drones. We know that you have many options when it comes to prepositional names for inside Texas stuff. So thank you so much for being here at ours. There's like 7 different podcasts on Texas football stuff, and you guys are here for us. We really appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Paul, let's talk. Look, we got our guys are here. Look at this. Hello, friends.
There they are.
James and Drew. Welcome, everyone. We were just about to open the conversation on the beginnings of life, how life is made. How are you, Drew?
I think I figured out how life is made. Life is great.
Good. I'm very happy to hear that. And James, what's going on with you, man? James, let's just start with you, James. Let's jump right into it. You were at practice today. Tell us about that.
Yes, sir. So I got to go to practice today for the first time ever at DKR, and that is quite the experience. I went to a few in the preseason at the practice facility. That was outside facility that's just for practice. But this was the first time I went in the stadium, and so I had to meet Joe Cook, the great Cookie. We all love him.
Wow.
And turns out it started at 4, and turns out you're supposed to be there at 3:50. So I got there at 3:51, and they locked the door. It's like trying to see the president, like going to a Texas football practice. They locked the door. I asked a lady, like, hey, how do I get in? She goes, I don't know. You might not be able to get in now. I see Joe through a window, and we're like waving at each other. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. He's pulling at the door. Then we're trying to get in this door. This poor lady who's just giving tours in the Hall of Fame area. She's like trying to jimmy the door. Like there's some forklift guy in there. He's trying to open the door for us. Then we set off some alarm. So it starts beeping. I think it's a fire alarm or something. And Joe said, no, that's the emergency exit alarm you set off there. Then finally, some other guys, thankfully, I'm not the only one, were late. Some other reporter guys were late. And so they let us all in. And it was really cool. Awesome atmosphere. It's a lot different being in the stadium.
James, what happened at practice? I love that you got the story. Getting in there is fantastic. But
yeah, it was great. It was fun. But yeah, practice was great. There was a lot of QB reps going. We saw Quinn did not have an ankle brace on, which was of note. Isaiah Bond, while Sark was hinting towards him being back and good, he was in street clothes. Banks had an ankle brace on. Sadir Mitchell was absent, but Justice Finkley and who was the other transfer? They were both there. The guys who were hitting the portal, but they're both with the team. They're still practicing. Not much to say. Quinn looked normal. Health looked good. They only give you like 10 minutes. Like I said, they're locked down over there. So it was, got a few clips. I put a couple out on the Twitter and Instagram. So definitely be following us over at Inside Texas. But yeah, I'll put some more out. I would say the thing of note was definitely just Quinn not having the ankle brace anymore. KB is going to be playing. He said that today at the press conference. So he just had a brace, but I assume he'll be good to go come Saturday. Isaiah Bond is sort of, we'll see. It's kind of a wait and see thing with that.
I think Savea is the other guy you're thinking of.
Savea, yeah.
Paul, one of the most decisive players in the history of University of Texas football, Sadir Mitchell, has decided once again to go into the transfer portal. I'm just curious, and I'd love to, Drew, you've been a good advocate for his journey, but I'm curious, Paul, what are your thoughts on Sadir? I think presumably this is final. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine him coming back, but maybe.
Well, I think he thought entering the portal was like when Michael Scott declares bankruptcy in The Office.
Right.
You just yell out, "I declare bankruptcy," and then you declare bankruptcy. Sadir thought you could say, "I'm in the portal," but there's actually a process to entering the portal. And I think when he first declared that he was entering the portal, I think it was a surprise to Texas coaches. They talked to him, and then he officially entered the portal. So, it's a shame. I think he's like I've written and said many times, I think there's an NFL player in there, but it may emerge on his second or third stop. So, it'd be great if he could do it at Texas, but, I think he's going to have a realignment in his perspective of what it takes to be a major college football starter. I don't know. What do you think, Drew?
I agree with you on that. I mean, to do that, I mean, it's like being a part of any organization. I mean, when someone is declaring they're in the portal and their own team, coaches, staff don't know that they're doing so, there's just a disconnect there. Are you unplugged from the team? Who are you having conversations with? Who's helped driving this decision? How committed are you to the plan that's been set out when you first came here? Uh, Anywhere else you go, you're going to have to start from scratch. You're going to have to show that you aren't some of the things that you are here at Texas. It's not going to get any easier. So there's probably some maturity there that's needed, and he's probably, if the program and if the staff want to continue to work with him and develop him, he's probably going to have to continue to show how committed he is to growth, how committed he is to the long-term plan, because you can't run away from it. And I'm not sure if that's what the intent was here, but at least he knows now, at least to this point, that they wanted to bring him back in and have him in the fold to get through bowl practices and continue to develop. So we'll see. But there's still some red, yellow, orange flags there, depending on what specific aspect of his game you consider.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We got some great questions coming in the chat. We invite you to please throw those in. If you want to give us a super chat, that's really good. That does help our very own Ian Boyd, who is not here tonight. He's taken up OnlyFans, only elbow stuff, so it's clean. Nothing like that. I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below. Our friend Ryan asked in the chat, have we overestimated our receiver room? Georgia played a lot of man coverage, and it seems like only Golden had success. This was something that was brought up this morning in the live in terms of just the overall depth of that room. But I'm curious what your thoughts are. We'll start with you, Paul.
Ryan, DeAndre Moore had a huge game against Georgia. 9 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. So Golden was not the only guy that played. Actually, the receivers got open quite a bit against Georgia in that game, and they were getting good separation. Golden, you did mention Ryan. Multiple times he got separation on stop routes and such good separation that he was actually catching the ball and then turning up and adding another 10 yards. Obviously, they got loose on a couple of deep balls. DeAndre Moore had a beautiful RPO touchdown where all SEC safety Dan Jackson face planted trying to capture him. So, yeah, I think that actually we played a lot better in this game. I think the differences against Georgia, in particular their defense, are actually up front. That's where we're really having struggles, and I think it's a matchups thing. And if you're an Inside Texas reader, we have dissected this thing 3 ways to Sunday.
What is with this, Drew? I mean, you've been a major advocate, obviously, for this team, certainly. But I'm curious, there's a lot of younger players in that room. What are your thoughts on the receiving room? And because obviously when we are going to the transfer portal, anybody that we're bringing in is almost immediately in the 2 deep. And in terms of just the development of that room, if we brought in, the question that was asked this morning is, if we brought in nobody else in the transfer portal, and we were playing with whoever is in the room right now, or next year rather, how would you feel about the quality of that room?
I think the quality is there, especially with another season of development, an off season of development. But we need depth, and you need competition. I'm a strong believer of having depth and having competition. You have to have somebody behind you who you can trust. I think we as the program know what it feels like without Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. I know those are 2 first-round type talents, but if those guys went down, it felt like we were slim on what we could do from a productivity standpoint. I think now, while the talent at the top end or maybe first round, at least as players stand today, may not be as high as those two at their peak of their maturity and everything else that we saw last year from those two players, I think the sum of the parts of the talent should equate to productivity that we expect from that room. And that's whether we add more people or not. However, competition makes everybody better. Depth is necessary for this roster. So for what's healthy for the roster, what's healthy for competition and elevating the level of play, while I don't know what's or who is going to be available in the portal, Sark has not shied away. We have not shied away from disrupting or disappointing top players or 4-star recruits or those guys who may not feel as though there's an opportunity to compete or have a guarantee or be able to earn the spot that they're looking for. So personally, I don't care. I want the best guys on the field, and I want the guys behind them to be able to plug in and produce and show that they're ready when their number is called. So I expect that from these guys these young guys that we have this offseason, but I also expect to get some competition in that room to make sure we stay sharp and we don't settle.
Drew is being objectified in the chat. I invite that. Go ahead and bring it on. The white t-shirt does him a lot of favors. Let's go to Helio right now. I'm going to start with you, Paul, on this, but I want to hear your take on it as well, James. So Helio says, I asked the other day on Deep Dive about Sark's offense, and if you think it's on the cutting edge considering who they are playing. I meant, do you guys think Sark is maximizing his game plan and plays?
James, what do you think? I'll give you a shot at it.
I mean, I personally think the end of the Georgia game, particularly in overtime, I didn't understand why they were throwing fades. It kind of reminded me towards the end of the Washington game. But, to what Paul and Ian will go deeper in on it is I believe, at least Ian said, I can't remember where you were on it, Paul, is basically that Sark is trying to draw up these plays to make it a one-read look for Quinn is the idea. Because Quinn does not exactly throw people open a ton, because he's not a mobile quarterback, and he tries these touch passes. And we saw in overtime the fades. We're thinking, why are we throwing over the shoulder fades 2 times in a row? So I think it's kind of a mix and match. When Sark has a great game plan for Quinn and he knows where he's going with it, and his first and second reads are open, that's when you see like the first half against A&M. There's some of those games last year, even in the beginning against Georgia, we saw when Quinn was on script, he looked pretty dang good, aside from, that one kind of miscommunication with Bond there. But yeah, and then second half, we saw the, one that should have been intercepted, and then that one in the curl route where it was just, what are we thinking? But I'd say a lot of this falls on not being able to run the ball. And that, I do think that Sark should have been running up the gut more where they had success, and not doing this outside zone stuff and this QT motion stuff that Georgia was not falling for. And Kirby obviously game planned for elitely in both matchups. So that's my opinion on it. I don't know about you, Paul.
Yeah, I think Quinn's you want to limit his reads, and that's why you see repeatedly this year, early script, it's about as good as it gets, throwing the ball around confidently. And then as that wears out, which is frankly, that's Sark's offense. Those are his ideas, right, of what he thinks is going to work. And then as things get a little more complex, or you have an opponent who can actually challenge some of those things and take it away, you see play decline over the course of the game. So that's just kind of what we've been living in, and I don't really blame it on Sark. Quinn's been injured. Quinn, has had some other setbacks as well. And then also, I think the running the ball thing, unfortunately, after rewatching the Georgia game, I don't think we would have had much success running the ball inside either. Stackhouse and Brinson were kind of throwing our guards and center around a little bit. And again, it's mystifying because it's the only team that they do that against. It's like they just get all fired up and they play hard, and they do things that they don't do against other teams. And it's kind of hard to explain, but that's Georgia. That's why they're an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
Drew, we've got Texas Made the Realist here asking a question about our 5'2" slot receiver, Danny Mingo. And he's just curious why the Scandinavian Devil doesn't get more touches with jet sweeps or tunnel screens. Oh, sorry. He
I mean,
probably
winter-
means Wingo. He probably means Wingo. Wingo is what he means there. My mistake. Sorry.
Who's Mingo?
Mingo. He says
Ming the
5'2"
Merciless is
Scandinavian
the villain
devil.
in Flash Gordon.
Scandinavian devil.
So maybe Mingo's like his nickname.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Who's a Scandinavian devil? Is this a reference I don't understand?
No, I just made it up, James. Get to the program.
Just pretend.
I thought it was like Speedy Gonzalez or something, and I was missing.
The question is, why are we not getting Wingo more touches with a jet sweep or a tunnel screen? Why not?
I mean, one is it got to a point in the season where when we were playing Wingo, we knew when teams began to look for the jet sweeps or the tunnel screens or reverses. But I think when Wingo's in the game, we have to get him in the game to where he's in there for more routine plays, where he's blocking downfield, where he's running routes, he's running the full route tree, where he's having to get open in man-to-man, where he's having to sit down in zones when it's required. Showing he has a full understanding of the offense will allow him to be able to be in position to get these types of plays on a more routine basis. We can't tip our hand to what our offense is doing by only playing him when we want to get him the ball in these scenarios. And so I do think with Bond being hurt, DeAndre Morris had some days or some games or some plays where he's had to rotate in and out as well. I think once Wingo begins to get that time just on our routine downs, we'll be able to lean on him for those things. But I do think we got to a point in the season where we just can't run this all day. You need to be able to run your offense. You cannot tip your hand to the defense on what you want to do, even though he's one of the more talented players with the ball in his hand after he catches it. And there's a lot of coordination on jet sweeps and tunnel screens. You don't want to have to run those plays as a routine just to get yardage. Those are supposed to be your splash plays. You call them at the right time. You pick up a big gain or even a touchdown. Your offense needs to be able to run without those things, and Wingo needs to be in the mix on plays that don't involve jet sweeps and tunnel screens in order to make them more effective when we do run them. So I'd love to see it too, but yeah, we need to get more out of Wingo on those routine downs.
The chat is absolutely blowing up in terms of you guys not liking each other. So please be nice to each other in the chat and ask some really great questions. And one of the questions that you should be asking is, hey, I need a new kitchen and bath. Who do I talk to?
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
Paul, one of the things that was brought up, and again, I think using Georgia as our litmus test here, especially in relation to Sarks game planning. One of the things that Jordan is asking here, it says Sarks screen game has been figured out by the better teams. Why are there not more fakes with a slant into the open zones that are left by aggressive linebackers and safeties? Why are they not calling the touchdown play, Paul? I think that's really the subtext there.
Well, so I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can do. But when you screen, you need to make a decision about what those other players are going to do. Are they going to block or are they going to go run dummy routes, right? And if you run a real screen and you're running the dummy routes, that guy gets blown up. If you are doing the delay and you fake here and you fake the handoff, you fake the screen, you're going to get sacked, especially if you got a quarterback that's not super elusive. So you don't have five Mississippi in the pocket to throw the ball. Now, street football as a kid, we did 3 Mississippi. A lot of kids, less talented, slow kids wanted 5 Mississippi.
Sure.
Sure. Not me as well. But Kelson wanted 2 Mississippi, which is not fair. So I just think that you got to get the ball out at some point. And yeah, there are some stuff. We did run some fakes. If you guys will recall, in the first Georgia game, there was a Jaden Blue pass that was off of a fake screen where he cut it up, and that would have been a touchdown, but we couldn't connect on it. So, yeah, I mean, you can do all these fakes and do all sorts of things, but you don't have an infinite amount of time in the pocket. And when you play better defenses, you particularly don't. So I don't think it's that our screen game has been, utterly sniffed out and destroyed. I mean, you saw that in the early part of the A&M game, right? But then there's a reaction to that, which is we did start to slip people out, not necessarily on screens, but faking some of that action and then throwing it down the field. So what is everyone amused by?
The chat is just vicious right now, Paul. You're doing a great job.
The one you said, Sarks should call more touchdowns. Just my 2 cents, but he said it like 2 cents, like 2 pennies.
James, because and again, these we're dealing with some high quality questions here. We're going to go with you here, James. If we lose, what is Quinn's legacy?
I think in the immediate reaction, it would be negative. I think Texas fans would Texas fan for sure on that one. And then as a few years, kind of like Sam, I remember people being like, oh, we're ready for Casey Thompson. We're ready for Hudson Card. And then, 2021 happened and they missed Sam. And that is kind of the typical, quintessential Texas fans, put in Case McCoy, then Case McCoy's not good enough. And then they move on to the next one, Swoops, Hurd, you name it. So I think Quinn, if they lost this game, 11-3 last year, 12-2, 2 conference championship appearances, 2 playoffs. I think now people would hate on it for sure. And then maybe a few years down the line, or if Texas has a dip, they would look back on it and think, hey, those were some pretty good years. So I think in the immediate reactionary, of course, or recency bias, people would Quinn would definitely get a lot of hate, whether fair or unfair. But I still think his legacy is, top 5 Texas quarterback. The stats reflect that. His winning record reflects that. When you go back and look through the years, it's really, you got the best ones have been since 2000, realistically, because before then, they'd throw 10 touchdowns in a season. But yeah, I still think Quinn's a top 5 Texas quarterback of all time. And win or lose, I appreciate what he's done for the team. And he'll be that guy you'll think that was Sark's first real teams. Whatever happens in the future, Arch, championship or not, you'll look and you'll say, hey, Quinn was there. People kind of see Sam as that stepping stone. And then Quinn was like, oh, we're back. And then whatever's next is next. So I appreciate Quinn, for better or worse.
Do either of you have a take on that?
Sandman gets it.
I mean, at the end of the day, Quinn's lost 4 games in the last 2 years. We're into college football playoffs. I think this is more about a story about Sark than it is about Quinn. I think everyone was so dependent on Quinn as our first NIL era quarterback.
Sure.
The one who we absolutely wanted came from Ohio State. We got him back after he was a commitment and went to Ohio State and came back. So I think at Texas, every great coach that we've loved and adored, there's always been a quarterback that has anchored, been a part of their legacy, someone that they've been able to tell a story about. And I don't think we're able to hold Quinn. I don't think many people want to hold Quinn in that same regard as maybe other quarterbacks in the past. But I think this is a Sark story. I mean, if Quinn is as bad as we have all, let's say we as fans have decided he is to a certain extent, then what does that say about Sark? What does that say about our future? What does that say about what we can expect from Arch or any other future quarterbacks? I think Quinn's legacy is going to be tied to, yes, his production and his numbers. And I agree with you as far as the top 5 quarterback goes. But I do think we have a highly educated fan base, more so than I think from years ago when I was playing. I mean, we watch more film. We consume more of this than anything else. We're highly invested. And so our expectations are I won't say are higher, but we know there are missed plays on the field. We know that there are opportunities that are missed. And we also know that there are areas where, if he was more mobile, if he was more healthy, if we weren't grinding through certain things with him, maybe the story would be different. We're assuming it will be different, but we're also we're not allowing ourselves to just accept that he is who he is and that he needs everyone around him working well to make things happen. So at the end of the day, I think Quinn has been great. Quinn has been great for establishing Sark as our leader and leading that charge to anchor Sark really now and into the future with this program. So you got to give him credit for that, and and also his story's not over. So we have some more football left to play, and I'm excited to see what he does with this time he has left.
Agreed, and I'll say this: Drew hit something I think that's important, which is supporting cast, right? And as a quarterback, or even as a player, you don't get to pick when you play at the University of Texas, and you're surrounding the players around you, your supporting cast. There were really good players that played when UT football was down. And there were really good players that played when UT football was up. And you don't always get to pick your moment, right? Also, in the history of University of Texas quarterbacks, at least in the modern era, we have trained our fans that the best quarterbacks play hero ball.
Yeah.
They single-handedly put the offense on their back and they go win the game. And they don't just do it in the big games. Sometimes they have to do it against Kansas, right, Drew? So that's kind of the other thing that people don't understand. A quarterback that's not necessarily elevating the offense and has to, but sort of by sheer force of will and just a massive amount of work rate, but also they are effectively high-level game managers. Right. And we don't have a lot of experience with that brand of quarterback at Texas. And so that's hard for people. It's hard when you have Vince Young or Colt McCoy training you that the quarterback's job is to single-handedly take over the game in key moments. When that's not most quarterbacks in the NFL, it's not most quarterbacks in college. So really the supporting cast plays a role in elevating Quinn, just as the supporting cast, when you played your football, plays a big role in elevating your legacy. I'm pretty sure Sam Ehlinger, if he played with some of these Sark teams, would be regarded possibly as an all-timer Texas quarterback. And then there's some really good quarterbacks who played when Texas was down. And so they're just sort of written off as like, that guy wasn't very good, whatever. And I just think that the legacy stuff can get a little complicated and complex. And
yeah.
You also get into baby boomer, old timer stuff where James, I'm sympathetic to you, where people bring up James Street.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, that's a system quarterback in a novel system with a real penchant for big play game, big plays and big games. But people forget the reason that Arkansas game, Texas was down 14-0 was James Street was playing terrible for most of that game. So anyway, we also get into Bobby Lane, who's basically the Tom Brady of the 1950s in the NFL. So it's an interesting thing, and I think assessing a legacy before it's even over is premature. So there's my long rant on Quinn Ewers.
No, that's great. I want to give some props to Garrison76 for that $20 super chat. Thank you so very much. And he says, just cuz, thanks. And you know what? Thank you to you, sir, or ma'am. We really appreciate you doing that. That is it's a big deal. For those of you that are wondering why I was staring blankly into the screen as I was listening to Paul, first of all, he has that effect on me. And second, I'm trying to keep track of all of your chats that are just coming in hot and heavy. And one of them I want to throw to you here, Paul, because this is probably a preview of what the rest of the week is going to look like. Certainly tomorrow with the breakdown of Clemson, and then maybe going into your deep dive with Ian later in the week. But Helio asks, with Clemson having a mobile QB and some good freshman wide receivers, do you think Texas will try to keep Klubnik in the pocket or maybe blitzing more to disrupt their offense? I would also love to hear from you on this, Drew.
Helio, what timing? Because I have an article on Inside Texas right now called Hero Ball Hopeful, breaking down Clemson's Cade Klubnik. So, look, Clemson, their excellent running back, Phil Maffa, has a bad shoulder injury. He's going to play in this game, but he's not going to be effective. He's got to have offseason surgery. I also wrote another article about him. Basically, their running game, or their traditional running game, has just disappeared. Maffa's backup had a season-ending leg injury. And the third teamer is a Dabo Sweeney our kind of guy, running back, who probably is not ready for prime time. So Clemson is going to have to hero ball this. Kate Klubnik's going to have to hero ball this for them to play offense. That doesn't match up well with what our defense does well. And will we try to keep Klubnik in the pocket or maybe blitz more to disrupt this offense? Klubnik is actually pretty good against the blitz. And that's, good for him. But that's also playing Wake Forest, Virginia, the Citadel, even SMU. They're not going to bring guys like Anthony Hill. So I think that we can actually play pretty straight up on them. I think we can keep our eyes on the quarterback. I think we disallow their deep balls, which we've done really well all year. And I think that we have the ability, because of the disruption of their running game, we have the ability to get Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill all out on the edge if we feel like it, and just bringing it. And I think that's going to be a problem for him, because Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins are going to compress that pocket. The minute you get Klubnik flushing and escaping out one direction, one of those Greyhounds is going to run him down. So I don't think we have to blitz a lot, but I hate when teams go 5 wide and teams don't bring pressure, because when there is no running back in there, you can overload and get an automatic pressure just by simple formation. And I trust our guys to cover against the Clemson receivers. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. Drew, how would you defend Klubnik? Just personally, like just you individually, if it was a one-on-one.
Oh, just all-time spy? I don't know.
He's going to get groceries.
You're supposed to follow him to the bathroom. No, I mean, and I know there's different times of the season, but from Georgia game at the beginning of the season all the way to South Carolina game at the end of their season before the ACC championship, we got to see what he looks like when he's harassed by a defense and a defensive line that can get after you, ends that can get after you. I just think we almost invite hero ball. We get turnovers when players want to play hero ball. We like when you start moving your feet, you get out on the edges, when you start believing that you can do things kind of beyond your offense, I think is when Texas can take advantage. Can't say we did that so much against Bill and Gabriel last year, but for the most part, we've been able to corral even the most dynamic quarterbacks and making them play outside of themselves, making them make mistakes, making them take sacks, confusing them in coverage. All of those things can happen this week, even against a seasoned quarterback. But I think we have the athletes, we have the players, we have the talent to be able to take advantage of everything that they'll present. We've seen it on film. So I'm not as concerned, but I would almost invite hero ball in a way that gets us some turnovers and puts us in position for our offense to put some points up.
Yeah, to me, hero ball suggests that we are taking away a lot of their weapons and just putting it all on one kid. And I think that's exactly where we want to be on this. One last thing I want to go to, because this is just honestly, y'all are killing it today in the chat. Let's go back to Sandman, because Sandman is asking, he says, I think Sark will handle Arch much, much differently. And I'm just curious, when you wanted to highlight this, James, inexplicably, why do you want to? What is your take on this?
Well, I actually wanted to hear what Drew and Paul had to say about that one, but
no. You
I know. I
in the private chat, James.
That would lead to some good conversation, but I wonder if that's just maybe he thinks that he'll be able to be a little harder on him. It does seem like Sark has been very defensive of Quinn. He's ride or die for Quinn. He loves Quinn. I think sort of what we were talking about when Quinn first came in, it was like the first big one, right? And he needed Quinn, and he goes to bat for Quinn no matter what, especially down the stretch where fans have kind of turned on him. Sandman seems to agree. It seems like that's sort of like him and Sark are very tight knit. They're very close. Whereas it seems like the Mannings, they have that 25 game rule. They're more about efficiency and like what is going to make Arch the best pro prospect, right? They've done this a million times in this family, right? And they're going to think like, oh, tell us what he needs to do better. They're going to listen to, maybe more of the critiques and take it as a learning experience for Arch. I wonder if that's kind of what he's hinting at. And I think maybe we could see that if Sark might be a little harder on Arch, because Arch has now been waiting. This will be his third year just in the system where he has yet to play next year, and that he'll finally be seeing the field in meaningful snaps. So I think, Sark is obviously, the expectation is going to be a lot higher. He's coming in at a different point. Quinn came in, they just went 5-7. It's now going to be coming off another back-to-back playoff runs that Arch set behind, back-to-back conference championships. So that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe Sark will be like, all right, no more, no crap's going to slide that might slide while you're on the bench. I'm going to expect X, Y, and Z out of you. When he messes up, he can't have stuff like the strip sack against Georgia and whatnot. That stuff like that would be what I kind of think might be the differences. It's just the leash, maybe in terms of coaching, might be a little shorter with Arch and his ability to get in his ear on more stuff. That's the only thing I could think of.
Do either of you?
I believe what everyone loves about Arch today is just what they see on the surface is that he's just more athletic than Quinn. And there are opportunities throughout each game where athleticism could benefit Quinn in ways that he's unable to take advantage of. And I think it's natural for us to think Arch could take advantage of it in a different way. What I think will be an interesting dynamic with Arch, because I've seen it at a few practices and we've seen it even in games, is that Sark does not plan to change his offense to have a quarterback getting 10 design carries a game. That's not who he is. It's not in his DNA. However, I do think with the way Arch has come into games and has used his legs, I believe our fan base believes like we're getting a Diego Pavia with the skill set of like Cam Newton,
Right.
We're getting a guy who has the sharpness, the wit, and all those things. I can use his legs. I just don't think Sark will intend, or that the family will. I mean, that's not the intent of coming to Texas to get developed under Sark. However, Arch has his own agenda. Arch will find a way to use his legs if he needs to, and that's whether to buy more time in the pocket or outside of the pocket to get the ball downfield or to get yards with his legs. So I think what will make Sark a dangerous quarterback is that most of his runs will likely not be designed when it comes down to it. When he's the quarterback, there will be pass progressions. There will be things that are set up and designed for him to take advantage of. And if those things do not pan out, or if he gets pressure, he'll be able to do more with it. And so I'm wondering how the fan base really expects Sark to coach Arch differently. Because I don't see Sark going away from his offense. I think he wants to make sure Arch is prepared to execute his offense at a much higher clip than Quinn has, in a more efficient way. Maybe, be able to stretch the field in a different way. So there are some things he'll be able to do with Arch, but I think the X factor will be what Arch is willing to do with his legs off script that maybe Quinn is limited on and that we just haven't seen.
This came in the chat, and because this is a very popular person in the Wellington home. How do you justify or rationalize this idea? What John is laying out is Arch Manning is the next Diego Pavia. Good point. What do you think about that, Paul?
Sounds like you didn't listen to what Drew said.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the whole purpose that we do this is to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you're on Twitter watching this, which most of you are, do us a favor and follow the person whose feed you're watching this on. That would really, really help us out. And again, for those that contributed today in the super chats, thank you so much. Starting tomorrow morning, the breakdown for Clemson begins. So please join us tomorrow morning. That's 9:30 Central Time. That will be Paul and our young friend Cookie. They're going to start really looking into this game. You've got your deep dive, you've got your roundtable, you've got your Inside the Program. All of that is coming to you this week here on Inside Texas Football, powered by InsideTexas.com.